Before we continue developing our game, we need to talk about something really important, and that is debugging. All the time programmers are faced with situations where the code doesn't work as expected. And the first step as a beginner is to understand that this is absolutely normal. That's part of the job of a developer, to fix problems. And oftentimes we get stuck for many hours or even days or even weeks trying to fix a single problem in our code. Programming will definitely test your patience and your resilience, but if you stick to it, you are going to get there. Now, to fix those problems, one of the most important tools is the debugger, which allows you to stop the execution of your code at any given time so you can carefully examine what it's doing and all the variables and the state of the app. So let's see this in practice. The most essential feature of a debugger is the breakpoint, and that's the red dot that you can see in line 18. When you set a breakpoint, that means that you want the code to stop executing at that stage. So you can take a closer look at whatever you need to. So here I'm going to restart the app. And after typing my name, immediately the debugger stops at the game selected variable. So if I provide the input, the program will stop in the next statement. And that's the case here. The yellow arrow shows where the program has stopped, and that's the if game selected is A. And if we press on the downwards arrow on top, it steps through each line of execution, each statement that's going to be executed in the program. So if I step through the code, I can see that the code blocks are being skipped since the game selected doesn't correspond to those letters. But since I selected the letter D, the code inside the equals D statement is executed. And that's the call of the division game method. If we step in again, the next line will be the actual division game. The yellow arrow is there now. And notice here that I'm hovering over the message variable and I can see the content of that variable. And the combination of being able to pause the code at any stage and visualize these variables, it's very powerful. You can dissect your program and it makes your life so much more easy. It saves you so much time. So I keep stepping through the code and the last line is executed, which is console.writeLine and the message. Now I'm going to set the breakpoint on the first line, which is the please type your name message. Then I stepped in and the code got stopped in the console.readLine. Here I have the ability to drag and drop the yellow arrow, which is where our program is at the moment, back to an earlier stage. Here we have the execution at line 7, but I grab the execution point and take it back to the date. And you can see here that not only I can hover over a variable, but I can also examine the object in detail. In this case, we are having a look at the datetime object with all its properties. And if this wasn't impressive and powerful enough, we also have the ability to change properties, to change variables so we can test while using the debugger. So let's try this here. I'm going to change my name from Pabs to Pablo Souza, which is my last name. And if we execute the code, Pablo Souza gets printed. And that's another very important feature of the debugger. It will also save you a lot of time and headaches. So that was your introduction to the debugger and to debugging in general. And we will be using the debugger so you can get some experience and see how you work in further detail.